that you've been thinking about? I know you're new to the club, but would you mind being a demo subject for a moment?
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay. I don't mean to force you, but if you wouldn't mind, I would love to demonstrate a way that we can take that imagination, that fertile imagination of ours, and move it and improve it. So is there something through COVID that is either physical or emotional that we could call pain? You don't have to tell me what it is. Just is there something?
Yes.
And just so that I know, again, you don't have to tell me what it is. Is it physical or emotional?
Emotional.
Okay, it doesn't make any difference. So this will work for either thing. So I'd like you to focus in on that thing. Really focus in on it. And you could rate it if you want. 1 being you have no attachment to it at all, or 10 being it's kind of bad.
10.
It's a 10. Okay. So that thing that you're focusing on, really focus on that. And I'm curious, if it had a sound, what sound would it make?
A loud booming sound, like
Loud,
a drum.
Loud booming drum. Good. And if it had a texture, what texture would it have?
Gritty concrete.
Concrete, like solid.
Yes.
Yes. What color is it?
Gray.
Gray. What temperature is it?
At least 100 degrees.
100 degrees. And is that hot or is that normal? What is 100
That's
degrees?
hot. That's considered hot.
Hot. Okay. And if it had a size, how big would it be?
Wow, the Empire State Building.
Oh, that's big.
Huge.
Yeah. So that huge Empire State Building emotional thing that you have, if you could shrink that down to a smaller size, what would you use to shrink that Empire State Building size feeling?
I would imagine using my hands to mold it down.
So do that. Use your hands and mold it down. And get it to the size that is manageable for you.
I'm there.
And what size is it now?
About the size of a tennis ball.
About the size of a tennis ball. Excellent. And what color is it? Is it still the same color?
No.
What color is it now?
It's a neon yellow, even like a tennis ball, even.
Okay, so it really kind of looks like a tennis ball. And if you wanted to do something with that tennis ball that would make it a lot better than what this emotion has been, what might you do with it?
I would change it to my favorite color, green.
Do that. Change that tennis ball size and emotion to your favorite color.
I would make it a bit more pliable, more not so hard, a bit softer.
A little softer?
In my hand, yeah.
And now that it's green and softer in your hand, on that scale of 1 to 10, where is it now?
I would say a 2.
And so now that emotion is much more manageable at a 2, right? So
I can breathe.
You can breathe.
I can breathe.
Last week, Regina, we talked about the importance of breathing and how breathing, you've always got to breathe, right? And so that really says a lot. You can breathe. And now that it's more pliable, right?
Mhm.
Do you want to keep any of it? The emotional link, the emotional negativity. Do you want to keep any of that? Is that serving a purpose? Because we don't want to take it away if it's serving a purpose, but is that negativity, that overwhelming negativity, serving any purpose?
I think it's serving a purpose, which I can't identify right now, but I don't want to keep it.
So just practice with me for a second. I would
Okay.
like for you to actually throw it to me through the computer screen. Excellent.
You can
I've got
have
it
it.
now. I've got it now. And
Mhm.
how do you feel?
Relieved.
Now, remember that it's right here in my hand. I'm going to bring it up
Uh,
really close to you.
okay.
Now, how are you feeling?
I can feel the stress coming back. I
All
thought
right, well,
I
I'm going
had
to pull it back over
reduced it.
here. I'm going to pull it back over here. I've got it back over here. Okay. I'm
Yes.
not going to do that to you anymore.
Okay, good.
It seems apparent that you don't want it. And if you could get rid of it entirely, you don't have to do
Mhm.
anything. You're just going to tell me what to do. If you were to get rid of it entirely, what would I need to do with it to get rid of it entirely?
Throw it out the door or window and let it bounce away.
All right. Grab it in one hand. I threw it out. Did you hear the door close?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It's out there. It can't get back in. As a matter of fact, after this session is over, I'll bet you I will find that my dog will have eaten it.
And
It
he
won't
can
be there
have it or
anymore.
she.
It won't be there anymore at all. As he's in here, he hears me talking about
Okay.
him. And so as soon as I open that door, he'll go out there and he'll eat that thing up. Will that be all right?
Yes, definitely.
Focus back in on that thing you were thinking about a moment ago. How does it feel to you now?
Wow, one. It went down even more. And I
It,
say one because I know it's there,
sure.
but it doesn't feel troubling.
How does that feel for you?
Great. Great.
This is what we call a metaphoric shift. Because what we did was use metaphor to focus in on whatever that was. I didn't even know what it was. I don't need to know what it was. Nobody needs to know what it was. You knew what it was.
Mhm.
And when I asked you to focus on it, you knew exactly what you were focusing on. And I ask you a number of different questions. I ask you about what it sounds like. I ask you what it feels like or what texture it has, what color it is, how hot it is. As soon as you said it was as big as the Empire State Building, I stopped asking you those silly questions. And we just started working with that because what that told me right there was metaphorically in your mind, you had it built up so big, it was
Mhm.
impossible to surmount. It was lording over you. It was so big. In fact, you couldn't even climb to the top of it. It was so big. That's your imagination. Because only the Empire State Building is as big as the Empire State Building, right?
Mhm.
And this
Mhm.
emotional thing that you were dealing with, when we pulled it down to a more manageable size, brought it into a tennis ball size, that gave you power over it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? In your
Yes.
mind, you had made a picture of it being big and insurmountable. And until we focused in it and started talking about it, started talking to it, there was no way to know that. But as soon as we started examining that feeling that you were having, how big is it? So I could have taken any of those things for, as we're talking about this, I could have taken any of those elements. When you said it was 100 degrees, and I said, is that really hot? I could have said, if you could cool that off, what might you do to cool it off? But that 100 degrees, I'm not reading your mind, I'm not in your mind, just from my perspective, wasn't enough yet. We hadn't really gotten in touch with it yet. But boy, as soon as you said Empire State Building, we had something we could easily work with, right? And if you could change that in any way, what might you do with it? Notice if you're helping somebody else, if you're doing this for yourself, you can have your own thoughts. But if you're helping somebody else, don't tell them what to do. That's giving advice. So when she said Empire State Building, and I said, what might you do to make that smaller or get rid of it? My thought was, implode that sucker. Just let it fall in on itself. And I could have said to you, Regina, implode that building. And you would have gone, I don't want to destroy the Empire State Building, or whatever you might have said, right? That would have been my mind. My mind could have imploded it and it would have been gone. I didn't give you advice. I said, if you could change that, if you could make that smaller, what might you do with it? And what your mind came up with, because it's your metaphor, was I would use my hands to mold it into something smaller. And I said, great, do that. And you kind of gave me a look like, boy, you are crazy. And then you did it. And then you did it. And when we got it smaller, when we got it down to a tennis ball, oh, great. Now is that manageable? Yes. And if you were going to do something with a tennis ball to get rid of it or change it, what might you do? I would have bounced that thing across the street and been done with it. Couldn't tell you to do that because it's your metaphor and it's your mind. So if you were going to do something with that, what might you do with it? Well, I would change the color for sure to something I like better. Oh, make it, what is your color? Green, make it green. Then what would you do? I would make it softer. So now you are manipulating the emotion rather than the emotion manipulating you. You see how that works? And then we could talk about, what would you want? Do you want to get rid of it? Do you want to keep some of it? I've had people tell me, you can't do that kind of stuff on Zoom. You can't do a pain demo where you have somebody hand you the pain. We just did. Right? We're just using our imagination. When I said to you, Regina, hand that to me through the computer screen or toss it to me, you did. I caught it. We're both using our imagination. We're both just 5 or 6 years old inside ourselves anyway. And so we can imagine this stuff just fine. And I got it. And then if you're working with somebody, you want to show them that they have control. So you make sure that they experience the pain again. When I do this in a live demo with people, I'll take the pain and walk it across the room, or I'll hold it someplace. And then I'll take it right back to them and put it right in front of their face so that they've got it. And so we're not in the same room. So how do I do that? I put it right into the camera. Right? And you knew that I was handing that to you. Get that away from me. Well, what are we going to do with it? You wanted it thrown out the door. Fortunately, I have a door right here that I could even have sound effects to go along with the imagination, and we put it out the door. And that put you much more in control. Now, let me ask you this, Regina, now that I have explained it to you and how it worked, has any of it come back? Or is it still down at that one?
No, it hasn't come back.